I think that, yeah, we have a lot of soul searching to do as a society when it comes to our cultural exports. And I think that this fits right in line with that.
Hello and welcome to Cinema Craptaculus, where we say a bad movie is just as hard to make as a good one, just a lot easier to make fun of. This is Dave, and with me are my uncrappy co-hosts,
Stephanie!
And John.
A one-night stand morphs into a 20-year standoff between a pair of platonic pals on opposite sides of the country, looking to see who can stay aloof the longest in your place or mine. Here's the rapid recap to catch you up.
Rapid recap!
Peter, Ashton Kutcher, is a successful marketing brand expert who lives in New York City and runs from every relationship as fast as he can get into it. Debbie, Reese Witherspoon, is a successful single mother who left her dreams behind in order to become a responsible adult. Together, their one-night stand from 20 years ago is what made them the best of friends today. You know, the kind of best friend you talk to almost daily, but never visit each other. Well, when she has to go to New York to be in a 1-week I'm a responsible adult class, I guess, he has to go to California to take care of her 13-year-old son, Jack. Over the course of the week, she learns to have fun, and he learns to be more responsible, i.e., he's able to make lunch and breakfast for the kid. Though they barely share any screen time, through the magic of split screens, we see them talking to each other like people who really, really know and love each other. So with the help of their zany friends like Tig Notaro, Steve Zahn, and Zoe Chow, they'll learn that they may be right for each other. In short, it's the best cast Hallmark movie you'll never want to watch, regardless of where you're not watching it. It's your place or mine.
Oh, boy.
the movie starts off in 2001.
No, that's not even right.
2003?
Yes,
2005?
2003. We've said 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Several times.
2003. And right away, I hated it. It just opened up, and it's Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon making out, falling on the bed to have a good time. And then they have these words come on the screen like, hey, it's 2003. How do we know? Flat ironed hair. Jeans. And I was like,
jeans?
Yeah, what are you guys doing here?
Well, I thought you were going to say that the problem was that they're specifically hammering the fact that it was 2003, and yet they were playing a song from 2006.
I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, it was that Gwen Stefani, and I was like, this song is not even from 2003. Like, what?
Yes.
We have Google. We were all there.
I do feel bad because I watched this ahead of you two. And I did message you saying something. I don't want to, play my hand here and just give away how I feel about this movie. But when someone says, I'm 10 minutes in and I want to turn it off, can we switch to the other film? That doesn't really happen. Sometimes I like, okay, this will be bad and fun, and we're going to settle in. But this one, yeah, the razor blades and the Xanax and the bubble bath were coming out because I was going to head to the other room and say sayonara. I'm done.
When I'm watching a movie like this, it's always bad when I start doing the math of the movie because I'm like, okay, I'm 30 minutes in. This movie is an hour and 53 minutes. I bet you the end credits sequence, I mean, this feels like a big movie. There's a lot of people working on it. It felt like a theatrical release. It didn't look like a television movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's about a 7-minute end credit sequence. So that means if it's an hour and 53 and I've watched 30 minutes, that's 123 minus 7.
How much more time?
Yeah, I have maybe like an hour and 36 minutes left.
How much of your life have you lost?
Yes. How much of my life
How much of your life has been spent?
And then I was like, wait a minute, there's a music montage that's about 2 minutes every 7 minutes. So there's probably another 7 of these. So that's another 14 minutes I don't really have to pay attention to.
Yeah, well, there's also, the whole, I do want to talk about the little gimmick at the beginning with the words written on screen. I actually thought that would carry out throughout the whole movie, and it didn't. So I was sort of like, oh, okay, well, whose voice is this? You know, like is this?
Yes.
Who's talking to us while we're watching this movie? Nobody's talking to us. They're talking to each other, but nobody's talking to us, the audience. It's not as fourth wall breaking as I thought it was going to be. And also, to your point, Dave, where you're doing the math, it's sort of like, oh, wow, like I thought that the first getting into the meat of the conflict, which was she's got to go to New York where Ashton Kutcher lives and take a class for a week. They were supposed to be together, but the babysitter bailed, so she's got to cancel until Ashton says, no, I'll come and take care of your son in LA while you go live in my place in New York. I thought, okay, that sounds like fun. But then it was sort of like nothing happened for a really long time. And it was like, I don't know how to describe it. Like the two characters they were on the phone a lot, but I didn't feel like that
they connected as if they were walking the red carpet together.
Well, I feel like we've gone through the gamut of these films where they're almost movies, and they're the ones that end up on Amazon and Netflix. And I think this falls into that category where they, picked a script that probably was a favor to somebody. It very much felt like this is a screenwriting project from somebody who someone owes a favor to, and we'll get it produced, because it didn't seem anywhere near the caliber, to say the least, of even the bassist of Ashton Kutcher's cinematic resume, let alone Oscar winner and former rom-com queen Reese Witherspoon. But they clearly all agreed to do this project, and it was shot during the pandemic. And it almost did feel like it was during a part of the pandemic where they said, hey, let's just make it easier, and literally I'll be on one coast, or I'll be on one soundstage and you be on the other. But when he gets to LA and she gets to New York, they're out in public and there's scenes with other actors. So it's not like it wasn't a COVID bubble movie.
There's classrooms full of people.
Yeah, I think they thought that the conceit of them communicating kind of like you've got, Sleepless in Seattle, that kind of thing. But man, I wanted to laugh, and I couldn't mine a laugh out of anything. And we can kind of go through what they tried to make funny and heartfelt, but I couldn't find anything funny.
I found a couple things funny. I have to say, also, to me, this looked like the type of movie, like in the 80s, sitcoms went to Hawaii or Disneyland or Europe, and it always kind of looks like, hey, let's go on a paid vacation where we'll shoot an episode, but really we're on vacation.
Boondoggle.
This felt like that. What did you say?
Boondoggle. That's what that is.
And to me, it looked like everyone was having a lot of fun. That it just kind of
really
for everything not happening, because there's a lot not happening.
There's a lot
in this movie.
not happening.
I felt like
there was the home showcase. Like I don't fully disagree with you, but I mostly disagree with you in that it didn't feel like a showcase for either town. It felt like a showcase for both people's houses. And then, which is a trope, that's a rom-com trope where somebody's an architect and they live in this amazing, an architect and they,
or their surroundings reflect who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's filled with tchotchkes and
he's empty and soulless.
Yeah.
With labels still on the glasses. Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of like, it felt like there was something missing. Like there was a big chunk missing. And I don't know what it was. Yeah, I mean, because I think maybe it's like the Sleepless in Seattle thing is that they were falling in love during the movie. And in this, they're already in each other's lives. So it's sort of like, and then they're even more removed from each other's lives.
Well, and I could see that there could be an in with the son who's full of anxiety because an overprotective mom. I immediately bristle at Hancock Park the movie or Larchmont the movie, where it's sort of like these people who live the Hollywood types that kind of only know their little world and their little private schools and their own, you know what I mean? And
this was clearly Silver Lake the movie.
This kind of had that feel.
or Los Feliz.
Whereas and Reese Witherspoon specifically used to come from where she would do movies where it would be like, and this is the college experience through, maybe it's UCLA, but it's at least college, or Sweet Home Alabama, where she goes to Alabama. There used to be these sort of like other areas of the country. I just think movies set in L.A. unless they show something interesting about L.A. are just not interesting.
But it's not even about LA. I mean, it's not. That was the thing. Like, it kind of was like, okay, well, is this a showcase of, is this the holiday or is this something else? And it was clearly something else, because even though these houses were central to the setting, it kind of felt like, what's happening here? There were so many scenes of Ashton Kutcher in that car with the boy that I just started to kind of zone out during those scenes. I mean, because they were having the same conversation every time, and I don't know. It just.
I will say one thing. Another good thing about it is they kept talking about the luggage with spinners, which are these wheels that make it really easy to move the luggage along.
That we've had for like 21 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I related to that. That it's true. Those spinners are great. Like, it does make that luggage easier to tote around.
So the takeaway is always get spinners, no matter what.
Always get spinners.
Those are great bags.
If I could have spinners on my feet, that would be the ideal world.
There was a charisma that I think the two leads needed to project that just was not there. I think Reese was playing quirky, and she can do it really well, but the script wasn't supporting her. Ashton is amusing in like the sitcom setting, but he just doesn't have big screen charisma, probably why he's not a big screen actor, really. And the script didn't support him in his strengths. It's like nobody's strengths were really being supported. Tig Notaro, who is a funny comedian, she had nothing to do, but they're like, well, here, let's give her a cappuccino, and drinking coffee is her thing. She's always going to have a coffee. Yeah. That's not a character attribute. That's a prop you give an actor. Steve Zahn, who's a very talented actor, his character adds nothing. Nothing. He shows up to be goofy, and he's a kind of a self-made millionaire who doesn't really need to work, so he hangs around doing her gardening because we find out later he has a crush on her, but they do nothing with that storyline. It's like, you got Steve Zahn. Maybe he could improv his own scene or something. But I felt like the script didn't give anybody any foundation to even build something amusing or moving.
One thing I felt along those lines is that the movie itself, I felt like, wanted everything every way without ever kind of making a stand in any particular character. Meaning, you have Ashton, who's a shallow kind of guy, and it's his apartment.
I like the way you phrase that. He's a shallow kind of guy.
Kind of guy. He's kind of shallow. He's a kind of shallow guy, and his apartment's kind of empty, bereft of anything. His books are in color order because his decorator did it that way. And then you find out he's an avid reader and writer. That makes no sense in my head at all.
It was like they dropped that in at the beginning, that he had short stories that he was going to share with her. During the hookup, it's like, he's like, I'll send you all my short stories. She's like, no, please don't do that. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's all we got.
I missed that. I was listening to
the 2006 Gwen Stefani song.
Yes.
Well, I thought, so she gets to New York, though, and it's funny because I've been commenting on L.A., but, what do you guys think of when we get to New York and this inexplicable friend that they have to sort of manufacture so she has somebody to hang out with?
Oh, his ex,
just kind of
Minka.
Literally shows up and says, hi, I'm your friend,
to bring life.
Because every character like you needs a friend.
Yeah.
Before we get into the friend, can I just say, can I just ask a question? What was this class she was going to? Because it was a one-week class in New York City where you go and just listen to a lecture for a day, and then you have a final on Friday?
Wasn't she getting some sort of degree? And this
but I was like, but in a week?
No. I think she's been taking an online course, and then she has to show, because a lot of these master's programs, you do it online, but you do have, there's a term for it, where you go spend a week doing practical work.
Then why is she like, brand new school supplies? She bought all new supplies, even though apparently she's poor, owns a house in L.A., but is poor.
In Silver Lake.
Has cable, but is poor.
I love that what L.A. thinks poor is.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Poor happens to be a 2,000 square foot house in the middle of LA next to a millionaire's house.
Right. Well, she got in early. She got in 2003, apparently, because that was when he was like,
yeah,
"It's
that's
so
true.
cool, you own your own house."
So
It's like,
Ashton is a guy that has 6-month relationships and then bails. And the movie starts out where he's got this one girl, and she was not the most appealing. I kind of didn't blame him on that one. But the next one seemed to be a bit more appealing. But she seemed to only be there to just service Reese's character as a best friend, which is fine, but she immediately kind of like starts coaching her on you got to get out there, and you gotta and helps her meet some famous publisher.
You have 72 hours.
which is hilarious because she's like, she can recognize a publisher.
And read all the books they put out.
What was the publisher's name?
It was Duncan
Joey,
Press.
I put books out.
The actor is very attractive. His character is
Jesse Williams.
His character is like wildly appealing, but he's basically sort of the Patrick Dempsey character. He's kind of the one that not Patrick Dempsey, but you know what I mean. Not Josh Lucas. Who's the one that doesn't end up with the girl? There's that.
I don't know.
But on paper,
Yeah.
the character is so appealing, yet all she can do, and she says this twice, is, "You're so, well, you know what you are." She says that to him, and then when she ultimately backs away from him, she says, you know what you are. And I was like, who says that? And what is he? Is she calling him arrogant? Or is she saying, like, you're great, and you know it, but I don't need to say it because you know.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
That's what I
that
think
was like
it
a
was.
theme
That's
in
what I
the that
think
was
it
a
was.
theme in the movie where people were aware of their greatness, which it wasn't bad. It was like actually kind of charming because, like, oh, well, I don't need to feel bad because like I'm amazing, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, that's
usually
good to
films
have,
are about
the
flawed people. When they're about perfect people, that's not as interesting.
I don't know if it's like that they're perfect. I think it's like they're not going to beat themselves up over the fact that this relationship didn't work out.
Yeah. And I think you just kind of hit upon what kind of blows about this movie is everyone is doing great to start with. And all we're doing is following their journey from great to super awesome happy. And that's not a fun journey to follow. You're following this journey from, look, dumbasses, get your heads out of your asses and look at each other and realize you love each other. And it's like, it's not a interesting journey. It just isn't to watch someone go from my life is great to my life is super awesome great.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like, that's a really good point because it's like, it feels like his life is empty, but only, he's not complaining about it. Like, nope. he gets dumped at the beginning of the movie, which was also a very strange interaction. I have to say that was a very bizarre moment where, like, where is this going? Well, what do you think of, am I wasting my time? Well, define waste. You just did. And then she leaves. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yes.
What's going on?
He's talking to the audience with that question.
Well, then they have the same conversation when he's talking to his clients. He's like, this is what I do. I come, he's in like a boardroom with two guys.
What was that? Did he quit?
He was a consultant.
No. He was a consultant who was contracted for 6 months, and his 6 months was up, and he did the work that he said he was going to do. And they were like, we want you to come on and be our CMO. And he was like, yeah, that's not what I do. And then the one guy got like upset, like he wanted to date Ashton. And Ashton, like, put a pie in his face and was like,
right, because
nope,
that's like
you're fugly.
It's committing. Well, I mean, that was supposed to be funny, but it was
it was supposed to be funny, but it makes no sense. There's the other thing about this movie is like their punchlines are based upon situations that make no sense. So you can't buy into the punchline if you can't buy into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Your place or mine. It's supposed to be funny, but it makes no sense.
But they're apart. I mean,
Hey, Craptaculars, we'll be right back. And now, back to the show.
I just can't get over the fact that we're supposed to see that his life is weird and transient and empty, right? But he doesn't seem to really mind that. That seems to be his preference.
No, he does not.
And her life seems pretty full and that she's controlling everything, but she's happy. And then they switch houses and then suddenly realize they need each other. And I'm like, but I don't understand. You guys are...
Yeah. He needs Post-its in order to find his way around a house. And she needs to get an empty house.
Well, I think, look,
so.
I don't go into the Hallmark world, but obviously there is a manufacturing conveyor belt to romantic comedies. And in the case of, there's always I'm not going to go through all the litany of tropes, but the one of friends who have long lost touch and were always meant to be together. This one tries to do a play on that by saying, what if they actually stayed in each other's lives on a day-to-day basis? That's the twist, is that they have to somehow one day figure out that they actually were meant to be together and hopefully can get over the fact that they wasted 20 years and she's pushing the edge of being able to have a child with them now. But hey, they find each other. But I think Stephanie hits it on the head. When you're but to Stephanie's point, when you're physically separated, how much chemistry can you really have from a split screen?
Apparently none.
I mean, it's like they do make a good point. Like, I mean, what am I saying? They make a good point. They did have there was a clear effort to emulate some of that, pillow talk, like Rock Hudson, Doris Day kind of split screen romantic comedy, right? But the story itself didn't lend itself to depending solely on that. I just, and it felt like there was something missing. I'll go back to what I said earlier. Like, it felt like there was a big part of this narrative that was missing.
Was it love? Was love missing? Because I felt like the two cared very deeply for each other. I got that. I felt like they were best friends, but I didn't feel like they particularly loved each other. I thought they were good for each other. In the sense of, not romantically good, but in the sense of they supported each other well. They knew each other well enough to know what each other's like kind of faults are and support them through that. But in the end, I didn't feel like they loved each other.
They tried to shoehorn in About a Boy. So you've got this whole subplot about the sort of callow, selfish guy who's never really had responsibility other than himself.
Yeah.
And now he has to sort of connect with this kid who's been overprotected. And, he's standoffish. And they kind of ham-fist these kind of like very poorly handled bullying situations. And then all of a sudden the kid's like, I want to be in hockey. And he's like, oh, well, let's go to hockey tryouts. Shot in Valencia.
And can I remind everyone, this is a 5-day period.
Yeah, this is not.
And not only has he never played hockey, but when he tries out, he's like the best player ever. So there's this,
yes,
like I know that like Jimmy Kimmel's nephew played the kid. So I wonder if Kimmel's like, my nephew's really into hockey. Can we maybe write the script to maybe include some hockey scenes and support the Valencia Flyers ice rink, which I've been to.
Me too. I curled up there.
But there really wasn't much conflict between he and the kid. They kind of like, it didn't take long for him to win him over. And all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I'm good at parenting.
That's the thing. There wasn't much conflict. When Ashton Kutcher had to try and help solve the kid's problems, there was no, like, it didn't matter what he did. They just moved on from it and were like, yeah, that was a good try. Valiant effort. Didn't quite work. Let's do something else. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, they only have 5 days. So they can't. It's not going to be the most.
I felt this film was crying out for a major right turn. I mean, not like The Invitation, which we just reviewed.
Like an alien invasion?
Or From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, but it just cried out for something, some meteor to kind of crash into the storyline. And maybe not tragic, like somebody, gets a diagnosis or there's somebody gets murdered, but something that would be like a big betrayal. Like there was no, other than the big drama was, is she going to like choose this other guy? And then really, she finds out that the kid auditioned or tried out for hockey because he got injured, and she's furious because like he may have a concussion. That was really the only major sort of roadblock in the last act. It's like, no, you guys should have done something bigger. When Harry Met Sally, they break up. They have like
and Harry outright murdered someone.
You have things that come up that really put the relationship in jeopardy. In the case of
stress tested,
right? And 4 weddings and a funeral. Like there actually was a funeral, but it's really that Annie McDowell is going to go back to America, and she's like, "Well, I'm with this guy." And there's this sort of dark night of the soul for one of the protagonists, and I didn't see that here.
Yeah, none of that happened here. I mean, they kind of the book of it all, like her trying to publish Ashton Kutcher's book, like
again, not a problem.
Yeah, it worked
It's a good
out.
problem to have.
Yeah, I don't know how that could be.
It would be like if we're doing the show and I go, hey guys, I want to be a stand-up comic. Wouldn't that be awesome if I were a stand-up comic? And then in 2 nights you saw me on Jimmy Kimmel doing a set. And it goes over, like, people politely applaud and laugh, and I don't get asked over to Jimmy's couch. But the next night I fucking kill. And like I do a 1-hour HBO special and everyone sees it. That's what this movie is. She sells his book to the publisher who puts it out. She becomes an editor.
Right. She has her own independent press or something like that.
Yeah, she has her own independent press. And, you know, everything's fine because he's rich to begin with.
He's really rich.
Rich. You see that apartment in New York City?
Yeah.
Rich. You know how you know rich people? Their refrigerator looks like the cabinets in the kitchen.
It's like all fully integrated.
You're rich if you have that.
A rich person takes
exactly.
three teenagers to the Kings game at the Staples Center in a fully furnished, suite with catered food and junk food and all that. Again, it comes down to what are the obstacles that characters have to really overcome, both personally but also as a couple. And they thought that, well, the obstacle should be the distance. Neither of them really had anybody in their life that affected the other. So she meets this guy, and the potential is there to, they actually get together. And then whether we know that they're going to end up together or not is not the point. But there should be some sort of, he finds out that somehow, and it was kind of a funny bit where he's got one of those remote control devices that controls all the lights and stereo in the house. And she is on a date with this guy at her place, aka Ashton's place. And one of them accidentally hits the button trying to turn something off, and they activate the security camera. So now it's like Ashton's going to see her getting it on with this guy. But that was almost kind of a, like, oh, and there was that guy that you slept with. There needed to be more awkward, cringe.
They had a thing where Debbie, but they've already settled that because Peter and Debbie at the beginning of the movie were talking about, like, well, you've got to meet somebody and hook up, that kind of thing. Like he was saying that to her. Yeah, and same with her. Like, it was just sort of like, what's the conflict? Like, I like just talking about it is different than seeing it. But then she was married at one point. I don't know. Like, I just have too many questions.
You look like Princess Leia right now with your...
Oh, because I put my hood on and...
Because you put your hood on and then your headphones look like the hair. Looks like you're about to put something into a droid for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He is our only hope right now.
It was a choice between this and another movie, and both films kind of came out at the same time. And in our Expanded Universe episode, which just aired, we talked about romantic comedies and whether movies... really even care about romance. And it seems like streaming series is the place that audiences seem to find those stories, whether it's Emily in Paris or Euphoria, whatever kind of your demo is, you'll find a love story in serialized form, except for Hallmark and Lifetime. But in terms of the mainstream fare...
Wait. I think Netflix and Hulu, I think all the streaming services have kind of a romantic comedy section or push. Mm-hmm. Because I want to say it was on Hulu. It was like Best Friends Vacation, starred the Peacekeeper and Lil Rowry.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Lil Rel, yes.
Yeah, Lil Rel.
John Cena?
And
John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena. And it was like a couple thing, but I still would call it a romantic comedy.
There's been a lot of them. We agree. Like, I know what you mean. There's been
nothing's
a few.
going to the cinemas.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, too.
What was the one that Sandra Bullock did with Channing Charming Potato? The Lost City? Was that, what was it?
Something like Lost City.
Yeah, it was kind of romancing the Stonish. But I mean, a lot of these films, they don't want to put the money in to make a film that they're going to try to get back in box office. It's just not that era anymore, and I don't know if it'll come back. So we've got some of these holdover romantic stars that are kind of getting up there, but they can still hold their own. They're getting cast. Julia Roberts just did another Clooney. You just had J-Lo in one.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But eventually, you're not going to have movie stars that are going to be the attraction. Hallmark doesn't seem to have a problem because they could just put up face after face after face, and they've got an audience. But I don't know if anybody is putting the effort into the screenwriting because they don't necessarily need to. There used to be some really well-written rom-coms. There just were.
And we're talking about one that wasn't.
Well, and Reese Witherspoon is a producer, so she's got a very successful production company, and they have done a lot of things. They've won awards. They're working with HBO. That you name it. And she's still got gas in the tank as an actress. So I just thought it was weird that she couldn't get her hands on something, or even get this one into the hands of maybe a script polisher to kind of pump it up. I just felt like, are they just under the gun to get a project? Like, yeah, let's just run with it. I don't know.
I think that, we have a lot of soul searching to do as a society when it comes to our cultural exports. And I think that this fits right in line with that. And it brings up another question I had for you guys. Are you familiar at all with this concept of certain people, not everyone, I'm not included in this, but certain people not wanting to see love scenes and lovemaking in movies and television right now?
You just talk about the dearth of sex scenes and nudity?
Well, yeah, there's less of it, but now there are certain pockets of our society who are in certain pockets of the audience who are saying, no, I don't want to see it. It slows everything down. It's embarrassing and it's awkward and it's not necessary. And I don't want to see nudity anymore. And have you heard about this? Are you familiar at all with this discussion? I have not.
Well, I've noticed it. I don't know if there's it never occurred to me that there was a movement of people that were kind of demanding. Audiences, we say, vote with their eyeballs and with their wallets. So you're not going to see erotic thrillers being produced like A Basic Instinct. I don't see that happening. But you're just talking about even in like comedies, like the raunch comedies. We're not seeing boobs and butts the way we used to a few years ago.
No, I mean that's definitely the case. But I also think that this group of people, they're being really prudish. But then at the same time, it's like we haven't really had an appetite for that kind of thing in a while. There have been certain movies that are able to do it, but overall, they're not something that you would watch in the theater with a bunch of people. Is that something we've moved away from? Is the rom-com, sort of supplementing a little bit of that? Like the fantasy of romance devoid of all sensuality. That's going to be a part of my TED Talk next week. It's a plug for my seminar that you can all sign up for today.
I don't know if I want to put this out there, but is there this feeling that, look, when you have a love scene, it's typically between a romantic love scene. It's between two people.
It could be between lots of people and be romantic.
That's true too.
Let's not.
but as long as we're talking about the rom-com in general, watching two people fall in love, it is by nature, regardless of the two people, it's by nature binary and specific to those two people, right? Because you have person A and person B falling in love. Now, if you don't fall into a representation of person A or person B, you're immediately left out. So why do you care? So is that what it is? Is that you can't represent everything within a scene between two people. So is it just best left
unexplored
at all?
I think Hollywood in general, they're overthinking everything, and there are reasons why they do that. I think other countries and the product that they make, they're not as concerned about as exporting it. They're not worried about as four quadrants. So there is more artistic freedom in European movies, probably in movies in Asia and other territories, because they're not obsessed with, well, how's this going to play in China? How's this going to play over, in Germany? They're just making it to make it so they can tell the story they want to tell. I think in the Hollywood studios, they're very much concerned about the optics of everything. And it's not just international audiences, it's domestic politics and social discussions. Kind of, we're in a bit of a divided country right now, and they probably stay away from a lot of things because it's just safer.
Yeah, it's like we're in this social moment where we need to be aware of each other a lot more. And
yeah, but talking about the movie we're talking about,
they weren't thinking about
Should
any
we rate
of that.
This?
Yes, Your Place or Mine was not thinking about social anything except for people not apologizing and beating themselves up about being in bad relationships. Okay, so yeah, let's rate this puppy.
Cinema Craptaculus ratings.
Okay, so we have a 3-tiered rating system here. The top, Cinema Craptaculus, is I don't care where, let's just watch. The second, Craptaculus, we can watch it here or there. And the third tier is utter crap, my place is off limits to you.
This is kind of going to be a simple selection for me this time. My Place is Off Limits to You. I didn't enjoy this. It was late when I watched it, so I was falling asleep, and I'm like, I need to zip to the end. So I kind of had to like speed through it, and I hate that I had to do that. I mean, like, because this a lot of effort. Yeah, I mean, a lot of effort went into making this, and I want to be appreciative. But I was like, I just got to figure out what this movie is trying to tell me. Like, you know, like, what is it saying? And it told me, and I was like, okay, great, thanks. And then I signed off. So I can't recommend. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, is it a plane movie? Is it a movie you watch on a plane? Maybe?
No.
No? I mean, if you don't have your sleep aid, maybe.
I mean, maybe. You're right. It's a maybe. Any movie could be a plane movie, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if it's cross country and you need to get to sleep, then yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to jump in and underline what Stephanie said. And I don't like to say utter crap haphazardly. And I feel bad because I honestly don't go into every movie saying, like, I can't wait to, like, tear this apart. I want our discussions to be funny. And if we find things in a good movie that are
never
funny.
Are.
And, or you know, like we just did The Invitation, and that actually had some good things. We did tear it apart in spots, but we had fun talking about it because there was stuff that was visually compelling, and there were performances that were interesting and things that were left on the table. And our frustrations are what we criticize. Like, if they had just done this, or why did they do that? And I don't have any of those questions for this. I just felt that this film was just base. All of the talent on screen have done better, are capable of more, and should have been given better, and should have demanded better, frankly. You can't tell me that there aren't spec scripts out there, particularly that may be like a few years old before romantic comedies kind of went to streaming, that can't be greenlit. And I can't recommend this. And to your point, on a plane or on a Sunday afternoon, there's a million other things you can watch.
So many.
I gotta agree with you guys. My Place is Off Limits to You. There were moments I enjoyed, but was it worth watching the whole movie for those moments? No. I will say, if you did watch this movie, I think the climax where they meet up at the airport is one of the funnier things in the movie, and really, that made me laugh out. Yeah, on the walkways,
People Mover.
That was cool. Yeah, that worked out.
I thought that was really well done, and it just caught me off guard, and it made me laugh. But was it worth the whole movie? No. No, it didn't even charm me like you want a romantic comedy to charm you.
No.
I was thinking about, would I have liked the movie more if they were actually sharing screen time together? If we actually saw them in scenes together, really, beyond the pillow talk. And I don't know, because the conceit of the film is, can two people who had a one-night stand just become friends? Can they actually get together 2 decades later and decide that, we were in love all along? Because your audience will get just as frustrated as characters. Because if you were like a family member or a friend of those two of them, you'd want to strangle them. Like, why didn't you guys do this sooner?
Yes.
And if they were on screen together, they would have had moments to, and you know, again, Sleepless in Seattle, Tom Hanks, most of his scenes were with Rob Reiner, and Meg Ryan's scenes were with her friend. Then that becomes the charm of the film, or that banter. But you don't have Nora Ephron here writing this thing, right?
No.
And they're not falling in love. I don't
they're
see
not
them
falling
falling
in
in
love.
love. I do not see Debbie and Peter falling in love. I was not a part of that journey. And I watched the whole movie.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, from the very beginning, the movie is like, these two are in love. And it's a foregone conclusion. There's no journey there.
Do we need to have a section in every podcast that we do, like kind of like Cinema Craptaculus ratings, where this will be John Ford doing Jeff Goldblum? Now you do not tend on having falling in love in your falling in love movie, aren't you? Dr. Ian Malcolm has like a line in every podcast we do. Now, you are going to have a Dracula in your Dracula movie. Yeah.
I want to see that.
This is our romantic film.
For Valentine's Day season.
Hold on. Let me just, real quick. You guys are writers. What's the one thing you could think of that could make this film hilarious? At least like funny or interesting. Like, what's one thing you feel you could add?
Zombies.
Jokes.
Zombies.
There's your right turn.
Mm-hmm. It is a romantic comedy at the end of the world. And they don't know it.
Romantic comedy at the end.
Yeah.
This past week I had this nightmare where there were zombies, but we kind of, like, society kind of got over the contagion of zombies. So it was like living with COVID, but instead of COVID, it's zombies.
Oh
like, you just wander around and zombies are all over the place, and people aren't as scared about zombies anymore.
They're just there.
And they're just more of a nuisance.
Instead of N95 masks, they just have like muzzles.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be funny. And then I'm sure there's people who would be like, they don't need a muzzle.
They're fine.
My zombie's good. So,
That is pretty great. That's a pretty great nightmare.
isn't that pretty great?
I like
Do you
that.
want to make that movie?
I would just say the only thing I would add to this film to make it great is just do what DC does with everything and just put Batman in it.
Batman. but Keaton Batman?
Batman?
Just it's like Portlandia.
Keaton or Batfleck?
Put a bird on it, put a Batman in it. Your Batcave or mine.
Yep. I like it. I mean, maybe that's the thing that's really missing from this movie is that they need some sort of, like you said, like a complete right turn to like, okay, or left turn to like, what is happening? Oh, this is not what I thought.
No,
this
it's like
was.
Tyler Durden. Ashton Kutcher doesn't exist.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's
a good
great.
one. I was gonna go with when they switch apartments, they also switch bodies.
Oh, I like that.
Yes, switch bodies. Or Ashton Kutcher is an assassin. That would explain why he's...
Yes, yeah. And the kid is his target.
He has to kill the kid.
He has to kill the kid.
Or Steve Zahn. He has to kill Steve
Or
Zahn.
Steve Zahn, yeah. No, Steve Zahn's a rival assassin who's been like playing the long game and he's just waiting to kill the kid.
Now that's interesting.
He used really bad poison, expired poison, and it's just taken months, and he's just hanging around like waiting for it to kick in. We have just made this film way more interesting on that note.
I think so.
Well, thanks for joining us on this Cinema Craptaculus journey. This was quite the journey. This is Dave, and ever present with me are...
Stephanie.
And John?
And remember, a bad movie is just as hard to make as a good one. It's just a lot easier to make fun of. This one wasn't even easy to make fun of.
Hey, if you like this episode and you've subscribed to Cinema Craptaculus, the channel, then you probably know you get a totally different show every week, such as People Also Watched with Adam, Dave, and Tara. They're three industry insiders who always find the hilarity in the big budget feature and the lesser known feature you may have missed. There is, of course, the Expanded Universe. This is your place to geek out. John, Doc, and S'more are your geek experts to talk about what's going on in the world of streaming series, movies, superheroes, pretty much any showbiz geek topic, they're going to talk about it. And of course, there's the show that started it all, Cinema Craptaculus, with Stephanie, John, and Dave. You don't even need to have seen the movies these guys talk about to have a good time. And if you want to join the conversation, please follow us on the socials. We're at Craptaculus on Instagram and Twitter. We're also on Facebook, and you can also go to cinemacraptaculus.com.